jump in?
Go ahead.
All right, cool. So it's always fun to come home. I appreciate it. I know Gitter threw it out there, but Tangipahoa Parish is one of our start areas. So a little bit of our story is 20-something years. I left. I was the executive vice president of Thompson Engineering, 300-something person engineering firm, but did that volunteer. I think everybody here has probably done a litter cleanup. And so about 8 years ago, doing a volunteer cleanup, 200-something bags of trash out of a quarter-mile urban stream. 40, 50 volunteers, worked all day, mud in your ears, know what we've always done. We were the National Estuary Program over there. But what I was noticing was a couple of urban just culverts entering this little creek, and it was just full of litter. And I said, if I put a small trap, I'd seen some of the big traps, the $250,000, crazy big traps, the vandalons. I said, well, I think I can make something that if I put right in front of the culverts, that's where the litter's coming from, I think I can catch it. And just literally, I never thought I'd start a business, thought I was going to retire from Thompson Engineering. The lady, her name was Roberta Swan, is just kind of a local vision person, said, go make it. So I went and got some pool noodles and chicken wire, made the first litter getter. Before we had a big rain, was actually, didn't have permits, didn't have approvals, snuck it in the ditch before it ever rained. And sure enough, the picture I'm going to show you in a minute was the first rain at that little creek. And it was, it had 4 or 5 champagnes of litter in it. Downstream looked good. I'm like, wow, I think I got something here. So just really started playing with it. I'd go clean the trap out in the morning. But what it all started to get to that was just water means something to us. I'm 55 years old. I was born January the 4th, and probably by January the 15th, I was at our camp 5 miles down South Pass as a baby. And so grew up in the Manchac Swamp. This is the first stand of cypress trees on the south side of the Lake Walpole. That's my Uncle Charlie Bates's fish lines off that stump right there. And so my entire life just grew up going to our camp down the pass. I'm still in the Galva Club in St. John Parish. But it just always meant something. And we kind of in that same age group. It wasn't that didn't litter when we were kids. It's just what they littered, either rotted or so. It was glass, tin cans, and paper. Plastic hadn't come in being yet. It's just, it is what it is. So we got to kind of see it change, but everybody burned their trash at the camp. The refrigerator went bad, you threw it in the swamp behind the camp. We weren't some perfect folks. It's just a different material now. But as our company now has grown, it's still about the water. And so we kind of created a mission of protecting and enhancing urban water. That's what we do, and that's now turned into recycling. So go ahead. So from our little crazy start of that little ditch, Maple Street tributary in Mobile, Alabama, that's where we've worked in the last 8 years. It's been crazy. And then things kind of took off. So I quit my job 4 years ago to do this full time. So we got our first big opportunity about 7 years ago, got a big grant with EPA, Trash-Free Waters. We're inventing this thing on the fly, but NEP loved it. They got the grant. I needed an employee. He happened to come to college. I said, boy, you got a job. And literally our first shop was a fallen down shed in his backyard of his rental house. Is how this thing all started. But today, we've worked in St. Lucia in the Caribbean. We're in Mexico, multiple sites in Mexico. We've worked as far north as Canada. You ain't never seen folks from the government side. Anybody wants to complain about bureaucracy, stay in Canada. Go to Canada. You ain't never seen the rules. And finally up there, we had trying to get gear in the water. We could never get a litter getter approved. They just could never get their head around. So we went to Boone's. And we went about a year. We had the initial meeting that everybody was on the call, everybody was excited. We never could get those people together again. And so where we was, I need a permit from the Corps of Engineers. They would have 5 versions of the Corps. And all they did was tell you, oh, that's this guy's job. So we were trying to put gear in a harbor that the police used in a park. I mean, it was like, we never, so after about a year, nobody would say yes. I finally said, well, one of them say no. Well, we couldn't get any of them to say no either. So I said, put the gear in the water, let's go. Canada's rough. And up there, if you hire somebody for a day and they don't want to work no more, you own them till they get their next job. It's just, it's rough. So we'll never hire an employee again. Anyhow, pretty excited about our body of work and what we're doing. And this is, we've already got 3 or 4 more states coming on here before probably the end of the year. So good projects going. All right. So from that little start, you know, y'all see the work, what we're getting. We're catching floaters. They don't weigh a lot. So we actually changed some of our data over. That's what's missing in this is some of our data. That's what we got to start adding back to this. We have a really elaborate data set that EPA asked on our first grant. So we actually track our data by major types. So plastic, the plastic is broken down into 5 to 8 categories. So every time we clean a litter trap, do a tactical cleanup of the water, whatever we do, we actually text Ellie and send me a sun map and a data map to pull up. But when we clean that trap out, we actually record all that information. So a water bottle is a different data set than soda. It tells a different story. Aluminum beer cans tells a different story. I got adults instead of kids. If I've got a site that's full of Gatorade bottles and water bottles, I got ball fields. So we didn't realize how important that data piece of it was. But as we dug into it, we also captured condition. Is this an old log jam that's been catching litter for 20 years or no Oxbow Lake where this litter pumps into? Or is this an active litter spot? 2 different solutions. And then we capture branding. And back to what we were talking a little bit, my Air Products or whoever is, the client, we're working for a lot of industrial clients that are trying to figure out their footprint and what they're doing. And the ones we've worked with, Coca-Cola is one of our clients. And we know everybody, oh my God, Coke is the biggest polluter in the world. Whatever. They're trying to figure their footprint out. They've never asked us to hide our information. They own our information. They get to do what they want to do with it, but they've never said, whitewash those Coke logos. So that's kind of how we vet our industry. We don't get off into who got the permit, who's doing this, who's doing that. But if it fits our vision and mission for the water we're working in, we'll take the money. Don't ask me to do something I shouldn't do. So as we've done this, and this is a little bit dated, but we converted our weight just wasn't enough. If you're going to pay me by the pound, I'll go pick up 3 tires and call it a day.
Yeah.
You know, that 3 tires equates to 20 bags of fighting that water to get that litter. So we converted it to volume, and this is probably 50% more now, but then we converted that volume to trash trucks. So this slide's probably almost a year old, but our work in the water is if you had just backed up and dropped in over 100 garbage trucks into the water, what we've taken. We think that's a great visual for what we're doing. So with this group, we take this slide, we take it in and out, but as you start dealing with groups that are figuring it out, trying to do, we've kind of come up with the keys to a successful project because we've all seen the failed projects. Chuck, y'all dealing with some of that right now. You know, what happens when things fizzle? How do things keep going? You know, what are you really trying to achieve? And so as we take on projects, we've done some really great projects that didn't keep going. There's always a reason. And we've kind of narrowed it down to these 5 areas. And what these also allow for are minor setbacks. You know, that's what's really cool about if you follow these steps. If a little bubble up comes, a budget slows down or whatever, you can still keep things going. So it all starts with vision. What are you trying to achieve? That's how the groups come together. That's why you can have competing opinions about other things, but if your project has a vision, you can bring pretty, you know, we're actually working with groups right now in Atlanta and Birmingham that have active lawsuits against each other, but they're partners in the litter work. A river keeper versus an industry, they're fighting over here on their discharge permits, but when it's time to go do a water cleanup on litter, they can come together on it. So we're seeing that happen. In our world, we think that's pretty successful to do that. So another missing link, and y'all a lot are here, are pros. So what we're going to talk about are the regulators, who are a lot softer than what regulators were when we started our career. They're more community partners now, and then you keep EPA out of town. But you're going to have your regulating entities, that group. You're going to have your cities and counties, parishes that ultimately have stormwater responsibilities, and you're going to have your NGOs and your nonprofits. Okay? We look at those, when those 3 can work together. Our missing piece is we're the maintenance side of it. We can let a gap that keep it going when the volunteers don't show up on a cold day. You know, we've taken what used to be just on the backs of volunteers and put it into a business model. But if those groups come together, so we start with who owns the water, who's got primacy of how that water moves. very often we run into a nonprofit group that has sat in meetings for a while and really come up with some decent ideas about litter in the water. They bring their idea to the city, the county, the parish, whoever, and they get a no-go because they really came at it from a litter standpoint, not a drainage standpoint. You know, and it creates a lot of bad blood. Sometimes these groups have even raised money, you know, and all of a sudden they go to the city, well, look, this neighborhood just flooded 2 years. We're dealing with an underserved community that's dealing with flooded issues. We can't go play with litter while we're dealing with houses being flooded. But it just, this one group is so passionate, they're so fired up, and they hear that no, and it creates a lot of issues. So when that nonprofit calls us about litter traps, the first thing we route them to, we have a call today in Atlanta, is who owns that water, who's ultimately responsible for that water. It's a critical habitat. We could have threatened endangered species. We could be in a tidal zone. The Corps' not trying to be ugly. This is just the rules that go with the permit. You need to do the work. And so really quickly, we start running our nonprofit group back to, is it the parish, is it the city that has a problem? You've got to work with them. And the sooner you can include them in what you're doing, the better off you are. We see that happen a lot. The engagement piece, we've had a lot of times that city or that county does something. They didn't include the groups that the community trusts. So we know how it is. I don't think anybody here trusts government. No matter what you do in government, you're up to something, you're taking a kickback, you're just up to something. So we use our NGOs and our nonprofits as partners because they listen to them. And those are kind of the canaries, that's who the people trust. So if they bless it and say, we're going to try this, we like it, that we use them a lot for the social media aspect, the community involvement, engaging that group. They're also pretty bona fide usually. There's all these keyboard warriors that just are going to do nothing but cause grief. That's just what they enjoy doing. So when those groups come in, and they will never shut up about complaining about government, but they will temper some of their language when a man Jack Greenway comes in and says, no, we kind of like this. We've been meeting. We meet once a month. We got a meeting, come see it. And it typically gets those guys quiet. When you're really winning is when Joe Blow's Citizen does it. So we've done a good bit of work in the Dog River watershed, lawsuits, fights in Mobile. And there was this one, we had done some pretty good work over there, and it kind of blew up on social media, and just one or two people were just really negative about the work. And we actually had Miss Grant, the judge's wife, lived in the watershed her whole life, chimed in on social media. And literally, first she said, I don't know what you're talking about, but we used to pick up 10 bags of trash after a rain, and now we're picking up 3 pieces of trash after a storm. The guy kind of kept jawing, and then Ms. Braddock said, and by the way, when was the last time your family left Dog River 4 years ago, and you were a little shit when you were a kid, you know? And that boy just shut him down. And so when you're starting to build that type of consensus around these projects, we see them as really galvanizing. That's where your NGOs really become huge partners. And they're going to come at a little bit more than just listening, which social media is a new phenomenon that we're doing. So where we come in is the maintenance. That's what we started our business on, like our litter getters. It's a maintenance contract. The parishes, we ain't got time. You know, they're running 60% staff right now in public works, right? To begin with, it's hard to find people to cut the grass, let alone clean litter traps. So in Mobile, ADM snuck in their permit years ago. They had to operate 2 litter boats 3 days a week in their watershed. They get their new permit. They're literally, what is this? Thou shalt operate litter boats 2 days a week in Dog River, 1 day a week. Like, we ain't got a fleet. How are we going to do that? So they went and got a guy out of Public Works, and they drove around in the boat. They hated it. City insurance wouldn't cover it. So that's where we got our first test on tactical cleanup work. We went and worked for 5 days and got more than 5 days, and that guy got it in a year. No offense to him, but he got hired to run a lawnmower, not fight snakes now. Yeah. You know, and so that maintenance part is the key part of our business. We sell litter booms now. They make them, Ampol and New Liberia makes our litter booms for us. We had to come up. But in general, like our litter getters, we sell a maintenance contract. All in, we handle every aspect. Data, cleaning them, replacing them. We had a lot of people say, well, we want to do it ourselves. They went and did a kayak cleanup one weekend, and they're ready to do it for the rest of their lives. We'll sell them a boom. I think we're at 80% now. The people we've sold booms to, we now have maintenance contracts to maintain. Because if you're going to put something in the parish's water, you're a contractor now. You got to operate at a very professional level. What's your liability insurance like? And it typically weeds them out. But that's what we do with our booms. And then the long part is funding. And we've been really good. Tangipahoa parishes, and we'll talk about the parish specifically, is the parishes funded work, we've had private clients fund work, things come and go. But as these visions happen, people kind of climb in. Birmingham, we're 50% funded by grants, not grants, private clients that fund the traps, but we also are funded by the county. Hard money, hard budget. Today in Mobile, Alabama, we're a line item in the city's budget. We didn't start there, we got there as the mayor, people started realizing it was a valuable tool for what they're trying to do. So that's all that transition and how that stuff goes. But yeah, every time we've had a project not go right, one of these items was the missing. And the cool thing is it doesn't necessarily kill the project. So we're back in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Great project up there, Coke funded a $50,000 project. Everything went great, it just wasn't the right time. The city, out of the blue, last year we get a RFP from the city of Fayetteville, from the city engineer. Everything we had talked about on that creek 3 years ago, he put into that RFP later. And now we're cleaning every waterway in Fayetteville tactically. Trevor's leading that. Assessing the litter first before we go buy traps, and then based on what we find, then we're going to smartly place traps to intercept and catch the litter, which is really the way to do it. So we're starting to do more and more assessment work. We just finished Calcasieu Parish. We're giving them a study of places to put traps after we did some baseline assessment of what we were seeing. So anyway, we condensed these slides, but what turned into playing with a litter trap in the water. These are 7 revenue streams for us. The business we created did not exist. Nobody, we kind of, so it's great because you don't have any competition, but sometimes there's a reason you don't have any competition yet. And so what's evolved in our business line is really has turned into the consulting piece of it, where we get paid on the front end to come out and smartly be a steward of that funding and what we're trying to do. And so that's it. Don't go buy a $100,000 litter trap and it was the wrong situation. We did the Burden Garden work. If y'all saw how bad Burden Gardens was in Baton Rouge and that litter over there, we cleaned it up. And they were going to put litter traps. It was 5 depositional zones. Actually, it comes up in a minute. We'll show you Burden Gardens. But the data drives it. These are all kids. That's me getting fat. But our devices, we got multiple devices. We're testing some stuff in Tangipahoa Parish right now. A key part of this are tactical cleanups. We think people used to think they don't work, but actually so much of our litter is legacy litter, and that tactical work is the way to go get it. But we break our water into zones. So like Tangipahoa River might be 47 separate zones, all based on confluences with smaller creeks, road crossings, whatever that litter source might be. We want to look at the zones. What we might find, Tangipahoa River's not good because we start, but we have people wanting to put traps in all these rivers, but if you ain't got people, you ain't got litter. Why am I putting a trap in a headwater that I can go just walk once a year and get what little bit of litter they have? But let me concentrate my traps on my urban source. Let's be smart about how we place them. Right off the bat, we started recycling. So to date, by the litter we get out of the water, we're about 35% by volume. We went all the way to the mills. Oh, the litter's too dirty. Anything from our cleanups we can't take. It's too dirty. Well, we went to the mill and said, no, we can take that. So we actually sort in the field. We've done that with a lot of y'all. And by doing that, we tracked mainly plastic bottles and aluminum cans, but we've been able to divert a good bit. We also are doing glass now. We're making concrete out of glass, doing different things. But we love the recycling. We just finished the Super Bowl. We recycled for the Super Bowl and had the most successful event ever in the Superdome, our system. And we'll show you our tables. The hard thing about coming home and talking to Louisiana is all of our inventions, y'all can go, we got one of them. We did that at the camp. People, Louisiana folks just figure stuff out. We take it up to these, any Yankees here? Everybody Southern? We take it up north and they're like, what is, that's a mess. Oh, that's a crawfish table. That's a shrimp table. The people down here aren't impressed with our clothes. We have an education system. We're doing one in Tangipahoa Parish. We tailor our education to the kids' water locally. So it's an 80% general information, but 20% of it is your specific. If I litter at Champ Cooper High School, what watershed specifically does my litter go to? And we actually show them our litter profiles based on the litter in that community. As kids, their eyes open up. So it's litter in the water, and recycling options in your community and what those might be. So we tailor that specifically to them. And so we're doing one in Tangipahoa Parish in the fall. We'll be developing that with Ginger's team and doing that. And then we do special projects. We do apple snails. What we've kind of turned into, anything you do in the water, we kind of have a system for it because we use just the basic environmental consulting. Our model of assessment.
Good evening, patrons. The library will close tonight at 8 p.m. All public computers will shut down for the evening at 7:45.
So, being specific, there's no use looking for diesel if my gas station only ever had gasoline. That's how it's utilizing it. So anyhow, that's our divisions. All these are revenue models. The beauty of being a little all over the place is we don't have to make all of our living from one area. And we do a lot of getting back. Yes, ma'am.
How do you screen for apple snails?
So where we started with the apple snails is Langdon Park in Mobile that they're fixing. They just were overwhelmed, and they've been doing volunteer cleanups, messing with them, but their data was flawed. So they would go in the wintertime when they're dormant, round up all the apple snails. It was all a bunch of empty shells. They were telling their volunteers that they were like hermit crabs, that if you left an empty shell out there, a new snail was going to get in it. So we go out there with my daughters. Everybody works in the business. All my family's got hip boots. My daughters are into it, runs on recycling. We go out there, and I'm seeing these I wouldn't let her pick them up. We could have filled up 2 5-gallon buckets of dead snail. We picked up 7 snails because that were still had snails in them. But we show up with all the volunteers, and they've got buckets of these. We don't want it. She was mad at me for a week. Like, hey, Kim, there she is. And so we did that for a minute. Then the NEP started doing it. And as the NEP started doing it, it overwhelmed them pretty quickly. They were bringing in volunteers, but the volunteers weren't consistent in their removal. So one week, this group would do really good. The next week would come through, they'd only get half the egg cases. So we tested it with them, and they actually hired us to implement. So we took Langdon Park and physically removed every snail and every egg casing, but we did it on a 3-day cycle. The closest we could find that the gestation period on those egg cases was somewhere between 7 and 14 days. So I figured if I was there every 3 days, I was beating them hatching. Okay? We removed some of the vegetation. We started assessing. We actually created traps. I got a bunch of them that were breeding and crushed them up to see if I could attract them with pheromones. That didn't work. We tried dog food. We tried lettuce. We tried with everything we could do. The knoll traps that just were set out where they were walking caught as many as the other, and we couldn't concentrate enough. So the first year, we broke that lake up into 10 zones, and we started marking where the concentrations were, everything about data. We found out that once we cleared the vegetation out, they mainly went to the cypress knees and the bridges. So we all of a sudden just got quicker and quicker with getting them. So the first year, I think we killed 75,000 apple snails and 1.2 million egg casings were destroyed. So we did that year. The next year, I think we did 5,000 snails and 20,000 cases. And today, last year, so now it's in a maintenance program. We haven't eradicated them. They did use a copper-based molluscicide and fight them a little bit, but I think just the physical removal, beating them to their breeding cycle was the way to go. Only concentrations of apple snails we see over here, we see them in Capitol Lake. We're seeing pretty good concentrations that we think that model would work. We did a cleanup over there. We're working on that project right now.
The Capitol Lake one?
Yes, sir. We're doing the Capitol Lakes project. So we think that would work well over there. In our live water, we're seeing apple snails, but we're not seeing them concentrated except in some of the backwater. They hate salinity. We just think like that keeps them knocked back. So we had 1 year of a lot of fresh water. They moved down 3 Mile Creek, which is down. And then once the salinity came back in its normal cycle, it seemed like it was burning them up in the late summer when our salinity, when the water and the rain quits in the water. Got crawfish ponds, we think it's just physical removal. You can get ahead of them that way and remove where they go. They have to lay their eggs out of the water.
Right, and if you knock the eggs into the water,
they can move, they can, so we actually crush them. So that's what some of the volunteers would just knock them, and So we think our system worked, and like today, I think this year, we have even 1,000.
Yeah, we went, just in the beginning of the project, it was about 2,000 egg casings and about 300 to 500 snails a day. In a 8-hour
When we saw
now, we average, I think our average number is like 0.33 snails a day, and maybe 20 egg casings.
And what took 12 people a day to do when we started is now down to 2 people in 2 hours. We know where they go. We still spot check some of the other zones, but now we can be specific. This the model. So, okay. So back to the litter getter. So this I was telling you about. This was the first. This wasn't the prototype. I built the prototype, put it in behind a guy's pond. But this was the litter getter that we put in the water in Maple Street, and that was the first rain of that. Kim knows all this. You want to give some of these kids? She's been here from the beginning. So the problem with that was in a high flow, it would start to deform. And the funny thing there, about a month after this, I go and my litter getter's all tore up. That's just crab cage wire and pool tools is all that is. And so I go there, and the trap, that trap, you could put it in a 5-gallon bucket. And I'm like, well, there went that. It wasn't even much of a rain. It might have been the second rain after this one. And I, whatever, I'm gonna go get out there and go see what it is, you know, so I'm messing with it, and I pull that purple, that blue noodle right there, and there's alligator bite marks in the pool. It must have been a dead possum or something there, he wanted it. Of course, over there, everybody goes, well, there went that, I guess you quit. I'm like, I'm from Louisiana, we ain't scared of alligators, you know? But, so I put the trap back out, and it turns out it's a 12-foot big alligator. And I got a video of me running him out of there. You know, big alligators, they don't want to mess with you, they want to get away from him. But on his belly, y'all, he was 2 foot tall, laying on his belly in the mud. That's good. I got the video of him kicking at him to make him leave. But that trap was deforming. So here we're already getting ready to win our first grant because the NEP loved this concept. I'm like, man, that ain't gonna work. So then we came up with all this being built in his backyard. So we came up with a PVC cage. We made PVC cages, gave them a little more rigidity. They're a little bit tougher. That's in Atlanta, Georgia, that trap. The problem was in high flows, they just sunk. And you see how this litter builds up? It doesn't have to even be in the trap.
So
what we're doing is stopping it from going downstream. It does. Who cares about if it's in the trap or not? I've stopped it. The traps do have a purpose, but those were sinking on us. That was a 2x2 cage. We had some that were 2x4, but that thing, once it would dip, you'd lose your litter load. So we took one of these and made a plywood kind of throat for it, pulled it behind my boat to see if it would lift, and that's where this one came on. You see those? And so that's the new litter getter. We still modify them, we tweak them, but that's the litter getter today in general. And the beauty of the litter getters is you and I can, anybody in here, 2 of us can carry one of these litter getters and put them in the water. So our big competition that makes a great, big, fancy, beautiful trap, they need a crane, they need 2 of us can go put this trap in. If we want to move it, we go move it. It's just a super simple process. So, but that's where we started, and now it's all kinds of other stuff. And so we're almost done with slides, so we'll talk about some more stuff. But so where we are today is we keep coming up with little different weird ideas. So here's our sort table, right, the crawfish table. So we are using those. We just won this year's contract. After we showed them how to do it, we're doing all the Tennessee Titans recycling. So we run 2 of those tables after the football games, after concerts, and we sort all their material. Event recycling is mainly PET bottles and aluminum cans. We sort to your containers. We drain our fluids. That's another trick on event recycling. None of the recycling facilities that we deal with have perforated bakers. They can't handle fluid. So fluid just gets kicked out of their system from the weight standpoint. The only 2 perforating balers in the state of Louisiana are at Coke's facilities in Milwaukee, Baton Rouge, for when they take back out of date material. So Republic doesn't have one, and Republic runs a great MRF in Baton Rouge. So that's one of the niches that we actually drain the fluid so we can get that back to the recycle stream. The booms have just killed it. This is Bayou Fountain over in Baton Rouge. That's our boom over there that we're working with. Marie Constantine and that group got all that done. Then the maintenance, they had a kayak group that was gonna clean the boom. They were there for a little while, but at the end of the day, when they go kayak a different river, they don't quite understand, every time it rains, they gotta come over here and clean this trap out. And so that's what we do. So the booms are killing it. This is some of the concrete we're making. We just did a big project in Fairhope. Crushing the glass, mixing it into concrete is the aggregate, and we're killing it. We just did benches. Part of this park in Fairhope, Alabama was gabion, just for erosion, they had these gabion walls, and we actually built concrete seat caps on top of those gabion walls. And they're really cool. Now I want to do more of them. These go with stormwater inlets. We're going to get ready to test in Tangipahoa Parish a modification of this, that we're going to actually have curtains to catch hydrocarbons, small traps to catch sediment with a litter trap, and we're going to test this around the mall, South Tangipahoa Parish. If it works well, you know, this could be a great value-added composition, you know, for gas stations coming in, Walmarts of the world. You know, the first thing they ask for, you know, when Walmart comes to town, is a reduction in the density of their parking spaces. You know, parking, you don't make money on parking, you make money on retail. And typically we want their tax revenue, and we're going to say, yeah, we want X amount, but we're going to grant you that exception. These are the kind of things you say, we're going to grant you this exception, however, we want these in your storm drains. And so we're going to test polypropylene curtains. It's a grant we're doing. We're supposed to be installing here in the next couple of months to just test how some of that works. Where does our litter come from, Gitter? On the roads. What's our two sources of litter on the roads?
McDonald's.
Well, not the product, but how we got litter on the road? There's two types.
Fast food.
No, not the types. Why? People throwing it out the window
Coming off the trucks,
and blowing out of trucks.
Blowing out the backs of trucks, and people just rolling windows
And
down.
that's your two sources. Well, we make these, we keep these in the back of our trucks and put your trash in there and you drive them around. We love them. And those are our recycled trailers. If y'all come to the Oyster Festival this weekend, this is another concept. When we started doing recycling in the field, at the time, PET bottles were selling for about 9 cents a pound, right? So a bag of plastic, pure plastic, weighed about 1.75 pounds. So I mean, we had about 17 cents of plastic, and I was putting in a 47-cent trash bag. So this don't make no sense, and I'm wasting more plastic. So they had these mullet, those guys eat mullet over there in Alabama, but they throw their cast net and catch them things. So they had
That's
these
why they got
bags.
the mullet toss.
My wife, who's from here, thought that meant people with mullets were getting thrown with mullet haircuts. She thought that for years. So why are they throwing people with mullets? But anyhow, so we got some of those mullet sacks and started putting our recycling in the field, and then we modified them to clear streams. And so that's what we use now for festivals. Gitter's got a bunch of them. And what's crazy about that is that visibility of that net, it looks different. The contamination is tremendous. The numbers are so far out.
So when your separation or styrene, when you get into the foam cups, you know, what beneficial reuse you getting with styrene?
None.
None.
Yeah, we're not a ban operation, but if you gave me one to get rid of, even if we'll talk about microplastics in a minute, you know, the polystyrene is.
You know, they gonna look in the future. They gonna look back at us and think, "What the heck were we thinking?"
Yeah, it's a booger, but we're seeing some new products coming out, getting rid of some of the polystyrene, but that's a pain. Polystyrene is an issue. Mainly our recycle stream are PET bottles and aluminum cans for what we get out of nature. Now we've added glass. And then in our regular recycling, we take dyed and natural number 2s, number 5, which is polypropylene, cardboard. That's about what we deal with. There's enough of a market for it that we can take somebody that take it from us for free. So we bring our plastic to Republic and they accept it for free because my material's already been sorted. It's straight to them. They don't have to run it through the machine. So that's what we kind of started that niche. We have a lot of MERS that take our material because what I'm bringing is pure revenue that can go directly to the
Ask him what those cups that says Italian Festival or the Boston, or what can you do with those?
So that's great stuff. That's a number 5, it's polypropylene. We also track everything we count as a recyclable, we track it all the way to the mill. So in general, our PET bottles go to Indorama in Athens, Alabama. They put them back into PET, back into Coke bottles, either Coke bottles, carpet, or
Republic no.
they sell. That's the same group. So they're going to sell it to Indorama.
Because we run a recycling facility at the parish facility where the residents can come and they actually check and make sure you're actually a resident.
Oh.
All right, but it all goes to Republic, and I'm asking them, well, what actually is Republic
is it-
doing with
But I'll
it?
tell you, so they're selling to the same people. So Republic sells their PET to.
So that's why they separating the plastics and the
Still, it's all
cardboard?
separate, yes.
All right.
But
Yeah.
do y'all, do
Yeah.
y'all separate it at the parish or does it
Yeah,
all?
no, they separate, they got
See,
different,
ours
they got
always-
roll-off bins, different bins for the plastic, different bins for this.
See,
The
yeah.
aluminum,
So we're
different
working
bins
on
for
a
the
co-op
cardboard.
program right now, and we trust Republic as long as you're sending them good stuff. The different, it takes X amount of money to run that machine.
So Republic has,
They have an optics store.
they have people that they send it, sell it to, they basically selling it, so it's.
Depends on the item. So if you
All
send in
right.
contamination, so bad plastic for them gets landfill. That's what they do.
What's bad plastic?
Anything that they don't have a market for, it changes. So right now, there is a market for number one plastic bottles. Clamshells don't have. That's the same material, PET. Same component, but it's a different form of it, so they don't like it at Indorama. It's more brittle, it creates OSHA issues and equipment issues. But milk jugs are the highest value plastic.
Really?
That's a undyed HDPE, high density
Yeah, I
polyethylene.
guess you're right, there's no color.
There's no color in it.
Yeah, no.
So if you notice, what color is a Sprite bottle now? Anybody notice a Sprite bottle lately?
Clear.
They're clear. They used to be green. Coke said, we're gonna make them clear because they make them more recyclable. So there's good stuff happening. You know,
Coca-Cola needs to bring that out and say, hey, we're actually.
They're
doing
talking about it a little bit, they're a
benefit.
little shy on
Yeah.
the problem, I think it's a great story. But the milk jugs, but they're lower volume. The most, if it wasn't for that water bottle right there, we probably would not have plastic recycling in this country. Because that's your high volume item that you have multiple entities. This shirt's polyester, same, polyester is the trade name for PET.
Yeah.
So this shirt, that bottle, and the carpet in that library are
Yeah,
all the
yeah,
same
yeah.
polymer. Okay? So you have three industries fighting over that polymer. That's why it's been driven, the price goes up, people want it, that's why. Milk jugs are awesome. We just, how many milk jugs you going through a day? Not many.
But you
Then
go
your
through the
dyed
water
HD,
bottles.
so milk jug will go from 70 to $1.20 a pound, depending. The dyed number twos, which are your Tide bottles and stuff, they go for 4 to 6 cents per pound.
Wait, what type did you just say?
Like Tide, like your detergent bottles, that's a dyed number
Okay,
2,
okay.
okay? And
Can
then
we
your,
recycle that, y'all get some of that?
they're recycled, but there's no value.
Okay.
So
we don't
if you
bring that down there anymore.
send that load of number ones to the MRF, and it's full of,
So maybe we need to separate based off, you know, like number one plastic, number two plastic.
we need to talk, because we're actually working on a co-op program that you could potentially sell your stuff, but it just has to be enough material. to do it.
Yeah.
So an 18-wheeler of PET going down the road is $2 million. So you might not generate an 18-wheeler of number one bottles.
Shoot, I looked at some of the, I just did the annual report, I wish I had it for me. They generate some recycling.
So a 30-yard,
I'm telling you, the totals will be, amaze me.
yeah, so I'd love to see it. A 30-yard roll-off is gonna be about $25,000.
Yeah, I got the, I wish I had it with me, but I just did my annual report, and we have our lady to counterpart to you that they're the good, separated and different products, you know, from the tires to beds to TVs to all the stuff that's coming in and tonnage on a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis, and an annual basis.
So you're paying somewhere between $80 and $120 a ton, probably, for Republic to sort your material. That's a great baseline number to see what you're dealing with, and you can decide more. We're seeing more and more, we're chasing the work in Jefferson Parish with drop-off and keeping it, you know. Our goal is to have a place that can actually acquire that material, if we'll do it right at the drop-off, and never put it into the co-mingled, which is how we did it. But we trust Republic, a lot of material goes there. And then polypropylene's the last. And what they're doing with KW Plastics in Troy, Alabama, they make the plastic paint cans. And so that's who's acquiring a lot of the number 5 plastics and number 2 plastics into how they build their paint cans. Novelis is building a big aluminum plant in South Alabama. What's neat about us is in general, we're pretty close to final destination mills. We got the paper plants that want the corrugated, Novelis is coming on with the aluminum, and we've got the 2 big end users of plastic relatively close. Those groups actually source material from all over the world to feed their machine. If we can get that plant and convent for the tires going, that's going to be tremendous that we have a place to send tires. But that's how we track our recycling. When we got glass half full in New Orleans, we either keep our glass local or we get it to glass half full.
We had a big legislature here at Bridgeport about the tires.
So that's the recycle side of things. But like that's a trailer, that trailer holds 10 to 12,000 plastic bottles. So, but, go ahead, Dad. And then it all comes back to data. You gotta tell the story. When we first, so we run what we call ETAP. It's that data thing I was telling you. It's a modified ETAP. We got that first big grant. I don't even know how we're gonna do it. Again, Jack comes to college, we're doing it. And we already had set up our pricing, giving them a quote, yeah, we were ready to go. And she's awesome, a lady named Amy Newbold. If you work with Amy, she's with EPA. We get an email from her that they're testing some data sets and she wants us to add this data set to our work. And I gnashed my teeth, threw my hat, these bureaucratic government, they don't know nothing about nothing. And y'all, by the third time we did it, it was probably, without that, I don't know if we'd have a company today. It allowed us to intelligently describe what we were seeing past litter bag. You know, we call it the Rosetta Stone of litter. I mean, it's that amazing to how the parish president wants to call and talk about litter. Quit jibber jabbering about straws. I'll tell you what your problem is based on our data set. It might be straws, but let the data tell it. So don't go expend your capital chasing white whales when you can be specific about what you're seeing. Even the work we're doing in Fayetteville, got a lot of homeless camps up there. You know, litter trap's not going to fix a homeless camp. The politicians are trying to get their understanding of it. Doesn't matter to us, but we're actually, some of them are active, some of them are old, but cleaning them up smartly says, guys, nobody's ever cleaned them up before. So let's see what the recidivism, how does this come back? What is my true problem? You know, and so that's what the data does. So this is some of the general, but back what you were talking about polystyrene, you know, we can climb into what these breakdowns are, what your situation is, but this is how you get it. Of course, we're heavily focused on floating litter. This was a different data set for Burden Gardens. And you really can't see it here, but if you look at Burden, these were all depositional areas of litter. The worst one was back here, which was the farthest away from Ward's Creek. When we start the process, they wanted to put the litter traps back here. Well, here's Ward Creek over here. These were all just low spots. So in an active event, what happens, and we didn't know this till now, is when that water's pumping out of our city, well, guess what? It's going to hit big water down below somewhere. And then what happens is, what's the weak spot? So it turns out, when Ward Creek backs up, the water's still flowing out of Baton Rouge, Ward Creek's backed up, it's going to find a spot that's weak. Burden Gardens. It was a low spot. So that stormwater from Baton Rouge was going into Burden Gardens. And as it was going in, as something is forcing its way in, it keeps pushing. Every second, pushing. But guess how it leaves? Nice and slow. So all your litter's getting hung up in the grass. So when we looked at this, what we ended up doing is we have built litter corrals. We've stopped the litter from Ward Creek coming into Burden Garden. We cleaned all this up by hand. It took a time or two to get the legacy litter to pump through these low spots. Today, the worst spot from before, there's no litter after a rain event because we've found the source and we've cut it off. We haven't fixed the litter, but we've moved that fight line closer. That's what we're having so much fun. This is our business. This is what we've always done, is start figuring out the source. That's how you build a solution. And that's all we're doing.
See, I would think, like, when you're talking Baton Rouge, Hammond, I would think university located areas would probably generate.
So it's your hardened surfaces. So it's high density housing. It's not a socioeconomic condition. We see a hair of a trend up in socioeconomic condition, and that's usually even more of irregular trash pickups, everything that goes with lower socioeconomic condition. But it's not this huge bit, but it's also population density. Last time I went to the housing project, ain't nobody got a yard man. You know, I go to that rich neighborhood out by the country club.
Yeah.
Look how great we are. Boy, out there cleaning up.
You got a lawn crew.
We cut that right out. We love working in poor neighborhoods Because if you can go win there, those are the folks that need pride in their community.
Yeah.
They're also very dependent on that water going through their community.
Yeah.
You know, we all grew up in the ditches. We've done too good a job. My brother's the drainage engineer for this parish, and they've done too good a job cleaning these ditches up. We got no crawfish holes now, you know? And so that's where this all comes back to. So that's a big deal. So your major, like your Walmart parking lots, are just a part of it. Y'all see what it looks like. There's nothing Walmart can do about it, except maybe work their retention ponds a little bit more. But it's just, you've got to have concentrations of people to go do that. So that's here's some of the education. We freaking love the education. You know, the odds of us fixing a 55-year-old, you ain't changing me very much.
Yeah.
You know,
That's what we agree right there.
Back of that truck.
there you go. And there's a little ferry that empties your truck out every day when you, it's a crazy. But these kids get it, and they're so interested in it.
Yeah.
So when we do our education program, we'll actually bring in litter. If I have time, I go pick it up at their bus area before we. So we do our whole talk about litter and water and where it comes from. We put this litter out. We let them do some math. We bring 20 pieces, so every piece represents 5% off their litter load. They organize it. So we ask them, where does litter come from? Oh, it came from the ocean. It came from the roads. It came from the truck. And I go, guess what, guys? I picked this up at the bus stop this morning. And they see that Cheeto bag, and they go, you know what, I ate some Cheetos yesterday. Their little eyes just, they get it.
Yes.
And Ginger is one of our champions. Last year, we were doing these festivals. She had these little kids. We had to put them on buckets so they could get up on the table. Their little fingers all fit. They could fit their whole hand in one finger of the gloves, and they were sorting and doing it. So they're awesome. But that's what we love about the education programs. And that's probably about it. I want to just visit for a minute.
That's what I'm looking.
So here's James Parish. So what started with Kim and I talking 8 years ago now, 7 years ago, 6?
2020.
22. Seems longer ago.
I know it does.
I was lots of But let's do it literally. She loved the concept. We had, at the time it lined up perfectly because Coca-Cola was funding some work with a group called River Network all over the country. And they were looking for a shovel-ready project. And with Kim's relationships and vision and my brother's approval, we were able to get a trap in relatively quickly. So where that is today, we'll talk about funders when we get to it, but we work regardless of our funders. We want to set a vision and we keep it going. We've had times that we operated the gear on our own because we ran out of funding in Tangipahoa Parish. We have a Give 5. We give back 5% of our gross revenue in time, talent, and good works, whatever that is. So if I got to carry a quality project for 90 days, that's just part of our commitment to the vision of what we're trying to do. And then different people have funded. So we're starting to work on 51 on the tactical. And so that work started with Coca-Cola funding. DSLV funds one of the litter getters.
Really?
Here. They've been great. Our vision is pure. I know Air Products is a big discussion point for everybody. And all I tell you is they can go do what they're doing from a big picture standpoint. That's their business. The work they're funding me to do was the work I want to do. And as long as that's what it is, I'm going to do it. And they've never asked for it. You know, they're wanting to know now about what else we got to go do good projects, whatever, their business. Niagara just built a plant here. That's who's a grant from them started with work down in Plaquemines Parish because of the saltwater intrusion. They were having issues with their drinking water, so there was so much bottled water being used because they couldn't have drinking water. So they wanted to do it. By the time we got that all figured out, they were actually, that problem had kind of ended. So we did one project down there. Those little kids, we did a recycling project in the Braithwaite community in Phoenix. I didn't know Phoenix, Louisiana existed. And we go down there.
Yeah, decent basketball in there.
Sir?
Decent basketball.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That was a cool community. We go down there, Miss Darylyn Moore Turner is the lady. So we did this recycling. We just want to get no recycling back. But we were going to do a competition at the end of the year who could get the most. We're going to do a pizza party. So Trevor's going down there to pick up recycling. He's getting a half a bag. So he goes down for the competition thinking, okay, I'm going to have a half a pickup truck. Them little boogers have been hoarding that
Yes,
crap
that's what they do with
for
those,
months
that's
with
what they
those
do,
tags.
that's what they do with
Trevor
those tags.
calls me, he's like, nah, I got a bigger truck. We were sitting in the back seat, you know, people were sitting on the recycling, And the kindergartners won. How many cans and bottles did they turn in?
Gosh.
A couple thousand?
I think between like all of the grades, I want to say it's like 10,000.
But the kindergartners had like right at 2,000. And we ain't talking a class of 30. I mean, that's probably 20 of these little kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they put
Yeah,
their
Phoenix
ball-
ain't a big metropolis.
Yeah.
No, they were out searching for those bottles.
But it was awesome. And so we
We
did,
made the library close.
the school did so good, we did ice cream for everybody. It was awesome.
15 minutes.
So,
We waited a little longer television competition this year.
Yeah.
but Niagara worked out well enough. We had some extra funding. We tested, and this is where we came in. Last year, we didn't charge anything, I don't think, for any of the festivals. We just helped.
Y'all just helped us, and then where we really got started is when we got that greener grounds grant,
We got some of the equipment, but then Niagara found it, and now they're funding. You know, they're funding it this year. They want to know more. Some of their team from Robert is actually going to work the Strawberry Festival. They want to come put their hands on it. So, we're doing a grant. It's a NOAA grant that we're working with John Gardens here, Ginger, for stormwater events. We've done multiple tacticals. Kim's been with us on a lot of them. As part of the work on 51 now, is we're going to actually start cleaning all of 51. April 8th, we're looking at doing a big cleanup on that route, but also identifying the critical spots. So the swamp walk, the boat ramps, you know, the places that we want, we're going to put those on a maintenance schedule. We're starting to clean those, and then we've got an education pilot coming. All this started from one little litter getter, and you keep building it. Robbie loves it, you know. Kim propelled her whole career to the state legislature, probably that litter. Is that how that works? But it was all about a vision, and it's our job to help and further the vision and mission of what we're doing. And so now, Tangipahoa Parish, we're working in St. Tammany, Livingston, potentially in Livingston. We got a call with them. East Baton Rouge, Orleans, Jefferson, Calcasieu, West Monroe, Ouachita Parish. And so it's all starting with relatively small. The Ouachita Parish work started with us helping with the duck pond, and now they want to do some more tactical work. So, but it's again, and we're from here, we love Tangipahoa Parish, what we're going to do, but it's just growing up. We're working on a master plan for Lake Maupaw right now. We'll see where it all goes. To take what we're doing in Tangipahoa Parish, we actually also have a potential project for just removing some of the big debris out of the Manchac area and then testing that across the entire watershed. We did the Andouille Festival last year. So where we work, it starts and it just keeps growing, you know, the work. And we have different funders come in. No funder gets to dominate the vision. The parish gets to dominate the vision, but you come in, be a part of this vision, do what you do, and that's what we're doing all of it. So, anyhow, so that's Tangipahoa. That's just all the monkeys having
There's the
fun.
little kids.
Yeah, that is
That's from this one.
that picture.
Yeah,
That's from this one?
Sicilian.
Oh, okay. And then, yeah, because there we are, we were wet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All this can be worked with volunteer groups. You know, we bring in a lot of volunteer cleanups, and then we stay and we do work. We do different things. So anyhow, that's just fun pictures. I know I've been bumping my gums a bunch.
Yeah.
That's the recycling. Again, it's how we sort of do it. Our team is crazy. We're up to 20 full-time folks, about 35 part-time people, and sub-agreements with different clients. You know, we bring in people. We have a group in Texas that maintains our gear on our terms in Texas. And so, at the end of the day, we also want local partners. We're doing LSU recycling now. We're looking for students to do some of that.
Yeah, when you start fingerprinting trash, the originators, can you get them involved?
Sir,
Like if you fingerprint, you got a large trash, and so one of your biggest trash contributors, say a McDonald's. Or
okay, that's
somebody
who's
back
involved.
next to-
They're involved.
Can
That's-
you get
Coke-
them involved in your back?
Definitely. That's what I'm saying. These are our clients now. Coca-Cola came down and saw my trap 7 years ago and started trying it. It's a problem they want to deal with. At the end of the day, I can just tell you, they're not going to go away from plastic bottles. That's how they deliver their product to the
It's just too
world.
economical.
It's too economical,
Yeah, that's
you
it.
know?
You
they're
can
also-
create a heist and get it.
We're doing that tomorrow.
Huh?
We're doing that tomorrow morning.
I'm telling you, that's because we have a serious problem with that.
Yeah, we're literally going out
Tomorrow
to
morning.
Manchac to go test our
Water
hydrants.
hydrants.
That'll get you some serious attention.
So- But we got this machine called a billy goat that came with a litter boat that we bought, and it's built to suck up vegetation. And so what we're gonna do tomorrow, we're gonna go to one of the low fishing spots.
But have you found something to do with the vegetation?
So we're gonna desiccate it and compost it.
I'm gonna say it should be composted.
So our concept
Keep it away
is-
from the plant.
Because they said the fiber content, it could be actually utilized, stuffing.
They're making a faux plastic out of
Yeah, yeah.
hyacinths now. But so our concept is to take it and water hyacinths like watermelon, that's
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
97%
yeah,
water.
yeah.
And so our concept tomorrow is we're gonna see what we can suck up and we're gonna blow it. We're gonna, this one we don't have to, we're gonna make sure it can't get back to the water. Hyacinth spreads by fragmentation and seeds. And
Yeah,
so
boats go through it, chop it all up,
So
next
we're
thing
gonna-
you know, it's,
we're gonna blow it to a spot, we're gonna take some samples, and we're gonna also see how quick it desiccates. Our concept would be instead of fighting all that wet hyacinth like them, we'll come back and break it up when it's dry.
well, my environmental background, I'm having a problem with the spraying because we starting to see, like you said, the crawfish, we're starting to see the limitation of certain
Yes, sir.
species.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking it's direct from the actual spraying, and I'm trying to get more involved in the material safety
Well,
data sheets.
We'll show you. We're
I
gonna
need
shoot
some
some
cards,
video.
because I'm gonna have to go get some cards.
We're gonna go do it to
Register
register.
too.
You ever
Right.
seen the duckweed harvester?
Not the duckweed one.
They make a duckweed harvester that runs on the belt, and it would also pick up,
So we've seen some of those that they do.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
problem we've got is it just overwhelms you so quick with
Yeah,
tons of
yeah,
material.
yeah.
So
The
our
body,
concept,
like,
if I
the weight too.
if I can go stage it for a minute, let it desiccate. We talked about shooting the baskets, we talked about modifying a grain sack. So we're gonna actually go get some of this material tomorrow. I'm gonna get a 5-gallon bucket, put wire in the bottom of it, hang it up. And how quick can it desiccate? This is definitely fall work, when we getting dry anyhow. And then what I wanna do is we're gonna bring it to Frankie's strawberry field, to Frankie Arnone's strawberry field, that I know I can control what runs off. I've got a pond there. So we're actually doing that in the morning. And we may do testing it in City Park next. Spraying it, it just, the oxygenation of the water, what it does, not so much the poison Mike, is that slug going anaerobic
Yeah, yeah.
is your bigger issue, is your problem.
You throw in the fecal with the dissolved.
So the issue we got,
oxygen.
we're working a project in Mexico right now. Mexico's rough. Their pre-Clean Water Act is where we were. We were doing the same thing. So we've got a pretty rough river that goes into this huge lake that the city at one point built. This lake, had this music pavilion, beautiful. It's literally one wad of water hyacinths. Well, guess what the hyacinths are also doing there is treating all the fecal, treating all the body, So our concept that we're gonna test with it if we can do this project is build baffle curtains in the upper part of this lake, increase my contact time with the hyacinths. That's the part that nobody sees. So I want to, just like I would do in a wastewater lagoon to slow my contact down when I treat my water, we're talking about having these baffle curtains with the hyacinths in them, then in them and clean the lake up. Can I continue to treat my water, but also bring the lake back to use for this community? So that's one of the things we got to do. And we will take our booms down there and figure it out. So, but yeah, so here's our data set. This is how we do it every time we work, whether it's cleaning out a litter trap, doing a cleanup. This is the data set we run. The next page is a more detailed on plastic. So this is our plastic gear. Beverage bottles, water bottles, straw stirrers, this is what we see. Some of these, they try to take styrofoam out of it for some reason, but we got to put it back, because it's such a big piece of what we find. This is the condition piece. This is the magic of our data set. That's brand new litter, that's medium litter, that's old legacy litter. So you can look at that right off the bat and say, I got an active litter problem. This was from Langen Lake, where we're doing the apple snails, has a tennis facility next to it. There's your water bottles, and look, Powerade, Gatorade, of my named items, 8 of them are sports drinks.
Yeah.
Boom, ball field.
Yeah.
Now I can go tell them. So we would go out there though, and it was a nice tennis, manicured. Where's the litter coming from? And we just happened to go out there on a rainy day to the art museum, tennis tournament. Tennis tournament, every trash can was overflowing, trash on the ground. So that city's been saying, we're overwhelmed at these tournaments. Now that we can take our litter issue and say, guys, first of all, this would be a great place to have recycling. figured out just for your tournament weekends, bring your recycling in so you don't overwhelm your trash is what we're finding at festivals. Also, it takes a lot of that stress off your trash. But, you know, that way we can tell them what we're dealing with. So anyhow, that's our data set. We do that all the time. You also can start seeing results. What if you actually make a change somewhere, or the opposite? What if you're cleaning a river up routinely and it's just not much litter? Big development comes in and the litter picks up. We never have baseline. We never have the time to, before you built this, litter wasn't an issue in this community. So that's how you can do something. So, and then this is where we start getting really nerdy. This is how we break all of our watershed into zones. So each of those zones is a separate data point. So we run that data. When this was this Dog River? Yeah. So when we started here, we run a grant in Dog River, and there's 4 sub-watersheds of Dog River. Well, what they wanted to do was put a litter trap in each watershed. They wanted to divide it. We've got 4 watersheds, they need 4 litter traps. So this don't make no sense. All the litters in these 2 watersheds, these are rural. So we talked them into we used our data and what we knew about this water to convince them, even politically, because these are different council wards, to say, I don't need a litter getter in my district if it's going to catch more litter here, because guess what? This litter ends up in my district. So we use that to politically say, you know how it is when we do a road paving project in the city. You got 5 wards, they're going to split that money in 5 deals. We were able to say, our work is better up here, fighting the litter up here, because these people you got complaining about litter that live down here, it's this litter they're complaining about. So that's how we used our data to focus our approach. So today, our contract in Mobile, Alabama, from that one little litter trap, is we've got 15 different traps and 2 watersheds that we maintain. They also have bought a big vandalon. Historically, I've seen the vandalon trap. We now maintain that trap for the city. They were in there cleaning that trap out with track hose. It was taking 20 people all day, 2 pieces of equipment. We clean it out with 4 people now and 2 canoes, because we just get the litter. They were taking all the vegetation out of it. But we do that, we clean this entire watershed annually, but we've also identified all the accumulation spots where the litter. So after a big rain event, we clean our traps first, then we smartly go hit what in Dog River, I think we have about 6 major accumulation points that the litter, we have a train trusser, the litter catches on. So we go find yes or no.
The library is going to be happening about us
Okay.
at 8 o'clock, so
I gotta go anyway. I need some
Cool. So anyhow, all part of how we do it, but being smart, yes, sir. That's what
Bye.
But that's where it goes. It's bigger than we've all done. How much litter did we pick up today? I got to tell the better story so I can actually go to the world of kids in now and be specific about what I'm asking, and that there's results and impacts. So yeah, we'll wrap it. Yeah, I love talking about this, John. We need to start at 5, but
You like talking trash.
I told my wife I could marry the trash man. I mean, I never thought that'd be but yeah, it's been too much fun. I mean, literally when I was a kid, I said, man, if I could ever make my living out of my head boots, I'd have figured it out. I didn't know it was going to be garbage. Thought it was going to be crabbing or something. But anyhow, questions, comments? Sorry I took the whole meeting, Joe.
no, just want to make sure you didn't run it last time.